Hey there, it's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
If you're watching YouTube Live or Facebook Live, he's a little taller than Bono, but he looks kind of like him. Mark Scandrette, their author, activist, speaker. Mark, how are you?
I'm doing great this morning, Rick and Dan.
You definitely have the glasses there. That's cool. I mean, that's kind of a Bono look with the glasses there. Those are cool.
Yeah, I've been wearing glasses like this for quite a while now, and it's just a little fun.
And how awesome is it now? I brought this up before we went live, right? And so he reminded us that he's just a little bit taller than Bono. But he said when he was in London and had a cowboy hat on, which sounds cool, right? People thought he was Bono. So you didn't try to change their minds, did you?
No, I think, I'm a foot taller and the wrong accent.
Well, it's good to have you. Thank you so much for joining us from San Francisco. We appreciate you. You've sparked our interest here on this book. Your latest book is called The Ninefold Path of Jesus, Hidden Wisdom of the Beatitudes. Just when we thought we'd heard it all about the Beatitudes, here you pull some new stuff out. So first of all, where did you get the idea for the book?
Yeah, well, I've been, my passion is helping people apply the teachings of Christ to the messy details of everyday life. And one of my mentors, Dallas Willard, used to say, the Sermon on the Mount is the curriculum for Christ-likeness. It's the closest thing we have to a guidebook for how to live in the reality that Jesus lived and taught about the kingdom of God. And back in about 2015, some friends of mine in London said, we want to do a project around the Beatitudes called 9 Beats. And we think that a new generation in the 21st century who often feel like Christianity is irrelevant or even toxic, we want to give them a fresh perspective on the way of Jesus. And I said, I'm in, I love it. But they said, how can we help people see, like, look at the Beatitudes. There's things about peacemaking and humility and justice. A lot of people don't know that that this is the foundation of Christianity. These things. And as we were talking about and brainstorming, I thought about an experience I'd had years earlier when I was a young pastor. After my first book came out, a Zen priest contacted me and said, I'm wondering if I'd be welcome in your meetings. He said, when I was a teenager, I had a Jesus experience, but I had some painful experiences with church. And so I ended up as a Zen Buddhist priest. And he said, but when I sit and meditate, I hear Jesus calling to me and I don't know what to do about that. And so we became fast friends. And I remember on our second walk together, I said, Shinko, I'm not that familiar with faith traditions outside my own. When you wake up in the morning, what do you want to do and be? And in about 4 minutes, he gave me the 4 noble truths and something called the Eightfold Path. And I was impressed with how clear and concise the vision that he was pursuing was. And then Shinko turns to me and he says, Mark, you identify as a follower of Jesus. When you get up in the morning, what do you seek to do and be? And I was a little, I gave him an answer, but it wasn't fully satisfying to me. I said, I want to love God and love my neighbor as myself, but it wasn't it was kind of 30,000 feet. And at that point, I was like, I need to develop a clearer vision of the Jesus way. And Jesus was clear about his vision for a new way of life, and it's in the Sermon on the Mount. So with this book, I'm using the Beatitudes as a doorway into 9 doorways into the core teachings of Jesus, which I think the Sermon on the Mount is like his manifesto for a new way of being and living.
Talking to Mark Scandrette, the author of The Ninefold Path of Jesus, Hidden Wisdom of the Beatitudes, and 9 postures for life. Now, we don't have all the time in the world to go through all 9, unfortunately, but give us maybe 2 or 3 of those to kind of give us a taste of what we can find in the book.
So this is in the book, I talk about first instincts, like our normal, our natural ways of responding to the stresses of life. And then Jesus invites us into to make 9 flips or 9 shifts in our posture, informed by the reality of the kingdom of God. And so here's a couple of examples. We come into the world with closed hands, feeling anxious and worried. It's a natural instinct that we psychologists call it the fight or flight response. And if we stay in that anxious state, it leads us to feeling anxiety and distraction and living out of a sense of striving and not enoughness, a greediness towards life. And the gospel invites us into open-handed trust, to receive what we need with thanks, to ask, seek, and knock for what we lack, and to share what we have with one another. And think about how different our world would be if we could learn to move from that posture of close-handedness to open-handed abundance in our Creator's care. Another one that surprises people is the second thing that Jesus says in the Beatitudes is, blessed are those who mourn. That's like saying, happy are those who are unhappy. Why would Jesus lead with that? Yeah. And he's giving us some incredible, realistic wisdom about life. We live in a world of great beauty and wonder. It's also a world of pain and tragedy. Mm-hmm. And our first instinct when we run into those painful parts of life is to want to run and hide, to numb out or distract ourselves. We do this with little kids. They, when you see somebody crying, you want to give them a lollipop, or you want to say, "Hey, look at this cool video on my phone." And as we've grown, we've developed really sophisticated ways of numbing out and distracting ourselves. The Netflix binge, looking at our phone, things we can shop for or put in our mouths. And with incredible wisdom, Jesus is saying, your comfort will not be found in distraction. And ancient people knew this. They tore their clothes, they poured ashes on their head, they sat in the dirt. And this beatitude invites us to sit with what's hard, sit with the pain, and to grieve, to mourn, to complain to God. And, about a third of the Psalms in the scriptures are Psalms of lament or complaint. God, where are you? Have you fallen asleep? And the promise of this beatitude is if we can move from numbing out and escaping to actually sit with pain, that God's solace and comfort can meet us right here in the moment where we feel confused and out of our minds. It's a peace that can come to us that's beyond understanding.
Wow. Mark Scandrette, the book is called The Ninefold Path of Jesus, Hidden Wisdom of the Beatitudes. Hey, thanks for busting my chops on the whole not wanting to mourn and binging on Netflix. But you're right. You're spot on. Because I don't like to mourn. I don't like pain or inconvenience.
That's uncomfortable for us.
Yeah, but it's necessary. What a great book. When you look back at, you've written this and it's been released, and no doubt there's great response. What do you think the hardest chapter for you to put together was? And what do you think your favorite chapter was?
Yeah, I'd say the hardest ones were probably the last two, where Jesus talks about suffering for doing good and for suffering for aligning with Christ. Partly because for a lot of the other Beatitudes, I feel like I've been able to make some of those shifts, and not perfectly or completely, but once you get into the 8th and 9th Beatitudes, I call those the PhD level Beatitudes. So I feel like I could say the words, but I haven't fully lived into the reality that those Beatitudes point us to, and especially the last one points to picking up our denying ourselves, picking up our cross and following Jesus, learning to move from a posture of fear and self-protection to surrender and radical love. And it seems like something that very few of us get to, but it's the place that the Jesus way is sort of counterintuitive. I think our culture thinks in terms of getting more and bigger and better, and Jesus way is a way of descent. He's sort of saying, if you follow my way, you will be mistreated, you will be misunderstood. Sometimes you're going to be alone, and you have to trust that I'm with you. And if you follow love far enough, you're going to be treated in the same way that I was treated. And so those are hard things for me to, I'm still sitting with it and wrestling with what does it mean for me to deny myself and learn to live courageously. I had a fun time writing the chapter on the way of right motive. Vulnerability is a big part of the work that I do. I run these labs where I invite people to be really honest with God and honest with themselves, and then with the support of the group, take on practices that can help us live in kingdom reality. In fact, our most popular one's called the Ninefold Path, and it's a really great lab that we also developed a curriculum around. And so I think that authenticity is really one of the beginning doorways to the spiritual journey. If we can't be honest with ourselves or allow God to see us for who we are, we're not going to get very far in our healing or progress in a life with God. And so it was fun to explore that a bit in the book.
So the material that Mark just talked about is available at markscandrette.com. If you want to take a group through the Ninefold Path, there's a leader book there. You can find that there as well.
Yeah, I love that. Mark, we have to go to a break. You've been such a delight. Love to talk to you again. Mark Scandrette. It is markscandrette.com. The book is called The Ninefold Path of Jesus. I guess I'm going to have to actually sit down, and it doesn't seem to me like that's a read that you just read once and you're done. I think you're going to really have to chew into that and soak into it. And we love your passion. It's good stuff. Hey, let's take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.